The movie begins with a woman named Rome, the CEO of a major robotics company. Rome possesses a strong personality, making her the most influential figure in the company. She is also strict in her work, serving as a role model for all female employees and those aspiring to achieve similar success. Rome is married to a theater director named Jacob and has two daughters, Isabel, a teenager, and Nora, who is younger. On the surface, her family life appears stable and happy, as she and her husband always strive to make their daughters happy. However, Rome struggles with an internal conflict. She feels dissatisfied with her physical relationship with her husband, often leaving her distracted and unfocused. One day, on her way to work, she is startled by the sight of a dog aggressively attacking a person before suddenly charging toward her. Just then, a mysterious young man intervenes, calling out to the dog, which immediately obeys and returns to him. Rome is fascinated by how effortlessly he controlled the dog, which seemed obedient and content by his side. She remains captivated by the scene and the man's way of handling the animal, but she soon regains focus and continues on her way to work. Upon arriving at the office, her assistant, Esme, introduces her to a group of new interns. To Rome's surprise, the young man she had seen in the street is among them. His name is Samuel, and he exudes remarkable confidence, displaying an unusual boldness. Unlike the other interns, he introduces himself to Rome directly and even dares to ask a provocative question about the company's work, wondering whether robotics truly benefit humanity or if it's merely a marketing strategy to boost sales. Everyone falls silent at his question. Though Rome does not respond, Esme becomes uneasy and quickly ends the meeting, apologizing for Samuel's audacity. However, Rome reassures her that she is not bothered. In fact, she is clearly intrigued by his boldness. She begins observing him, even following his movements to the cafeteria, where she asks him to make her a cup of coffee. When he hands her the coffee, she asks how he managed to control the dog so effortlessly. He replies that the dog was actually female and, with a confident smirk, adds that he has a natural talent for handling any female, whether human or animal. His response leaves Rome both surprised and intrigued, and she finds herself unable to stop thinking about it. In the evening, Rome is in her bedroom with her husband, Jacob. When he tries to get close to her, she pulls the blanket over herself, which surprises him. His confusion grows when she asks him to explore a different experience in their relationship, but he firmly refuses, insisting that he does not want to impose any form of control over her, as it would make him feel like a cruel or domineering person. Rome feels frustrated but does not argue. The next day, the company hosts an event, during which Esme informs Rome that the board of directors has selected her to be one of the supervisors for training the new interns due to her extensive experience. However, Rome is barely paying attention to Esme's words, as she is too focused on observing Samuel, watching his interactions with his colleagues, particularly with the female interns. Later, Rome steps out onto the balcony for some fresh air. Samuel approaches her and tells her that he has chosen her to be his training supervisor at the company. She is taken aback by his directness and tries to explain that she is still discussing the supervision role with the board due to her limited time. However, Samuel ignores her words and confidently tells her that he will be waiting for their first training session before walking away. Rome is left intrigued by his self-assured demeanor, sensing a deep, unspoken desire for someone to take control over her, as her gaze betrays a hidden longing to be closer to him. After the party, Jacob talks to Rome about his new play, but she is completely unfocused, which frustrates him. He asks her whether he is still important in her life. In response, Rome moves closer to him, embracing him and apologizing for not paying attention to his words. The next day, on her way to work, Rome runs into Samuel in the elevator. He reminds her about their scheduled training session. She replies that she will check her agenda before making a decision, but he interrupts her, complimenting her hairstyle, saying it suits her perfectly. Rome is caught off guard and finds herself unable to respond. She quickly leaves the elevator but continues to observe him from her office while he talks to Esme. At the end of the day, Rome approaches Samuel to begin their first training session. During their conversation, he asks about her professional journey. Although his question is not directly related to the training, she answers him, sharing the story of her career, from her university graduation to her first job application, the challenges she faced during the interviews, and how she ultimately secured the position. Samuel listens attentively, showing great interest as he asks her numerous questions, and she responds openly. Suddenly, Samuel tells her that she is not actually a strong person, contrary to how she appears in front of the company employees. He says she needs someone to guide her and make decisions for her because she is tired of always being the one in control. His words shock her deeply as they reflect a truth she has been trying to deny. When Samuel notices her silence, he apologizes, but Rome abruptly ends the meeting and gets up to leave. However, before she exits, Samuel calls out to her and boldly approaches. She does not resist. Instead, she responds to him. But just as quickly, she regains her composure, pulls away, and leaves. The next day, as Rome leaves the company after work, Samuel catches up with her and asks about their second training session. She tries to evade him, claiming she has an important appointment and will inform him later about the next meeting. However, Samuel ignores her hesitation, stands directly in front of her, and asserts that the decision is not hers to make. She will meet with him once a week as per the training program. He refuses to let her cancel or reschedule the meeting. Not wanting to attract attention, especially since they are standing in front of the company, she goes along with the conversation before walking away. Yet she is left overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. She has never been spoken to in such a commanding tone or had someone impose decisions on her. Despite this, she seems to enjoy it. Days pass, and one night, Rome accompanies her husband, Jacob, to the theater for the premiere of his new play. However, he is surprised when she asks to leave early, citing urgent work matters. He tries to persuade her to stay, emphasizing that he needs her support on this important night, but she remains indifferent, apologizes, and departs. In truth, her reason for leaving was not work. It was her scheduled meeting with Samuel. When Rome arrives at her office, she finds a note on her desk written by Samuel, informing her that he has changed their meeting time and will be waiting for her the next day at the hotel where he is staying. It is clear that she can no longer resist her desire to be near him, so she goes to meet him at the hotel as scheduled. Upon arriving, she confronts him harshly, expressing her frustration with his behavior and insisting that she only came to put an end to his dominance over her. But Samuel does not respond. Instead, he suddenly moves closer and tries to overpower her. She struggles to resist him at first, but eventually she gives in and even appears to enjoy what is happening. However, contrary to her expectations, Samuel refuses to satisfy her desire. Instead, he leads her to the far end of the room and forces her to stand against the wall as if punishing a school student. Samuel tells her that he understands her nature well and knows she needs someone to take control of her. Rome admits he is right and confesses that from the moment she first saw him, he awakened a hidden desire within her that she had suppressed for years. She collapses into his arms, sobbing like a child. In the end, she completely surrenders to her need for submission and engages in a full-fledged relationship with him. From that day on, Their secret meetings become frequent, and a dominant, submissive relationship develops, with Samuel fully in control and Rome obeying his every command without objection. However, one day, when she returns home, she is shocked to find Samuel sitting with her husband Jacob and their 2 daughters, chatting with them warmly. As she enters, Samuel smiles at her and hands her the laptop she had forgotten at the company. Jacob and the girls seem to be impressed by Samuel's personality, especially after learning that he is a hard-working young man who supports himself through his studies while completing his training at the company in hopes of securing a full-time job. However, when Rome finally gets a private moment with Samuel in the car, she warns him never to visit her home again. She firmly states that her family is the most important thing in her life and that she will not lose them for any reason. She also tells him that she has decided to end their affair, calling it a mistake she made in a moment of weakness. Samuel accepts her words with anger, gets out of the car, and walks away without responding. Days pass, and he completely ignores Rome's presence. He doesn't speak to her at work, and even leaves any room she enters. One day, Rome finds him alone on the rooftop and takes the opportunity to talk to him. However, he surprises her by requesting to be removed from her supervision and even informs her that he will officially request to be transferred under someone else's mentorship. This unsettles her, and she warns him that the company might investigate the matter, which could expose their relationship and ultimately cost her her job. But Samuel coldly replies that he doesn't care about any of that, then walks away, leaving her standing there. That evening, Rome goes to the bar where Samuel works, hoping to talk to him. However, she is caught off guard when one of his co-workers approaches her with a message from Samuel. He does not want to see her, and it would be best if she left. Feeling deeply humiliated, she walks away, devastated. When the scheduled training session arrives, Rome tries to convince Samuel to reconsider his decision. She explains that there is a significant age gap between them. She is 20 years older, and continuing this relationship could negatively impact his life. But Samuel retorts that his life was just fine while they were together, unlike hers, which was always filled with stress. As she distances herself from him, Samuel tells her that the best option for both of them is to resume their relationship. However, he makes it clear that this time it will be on his terms, and she will not be allowed to object to anything he does. Then, he threatens that if she insists on staying away from him, he will expose their relationship to the company and ruin her reputation. At that moment, Rome realizes the gravity of her mistake. By allowing herself to be involved with Samuel, she has put both her career and her family at risk. Faced with this threat, she sees no choice but to submit to his demands and continue their relationship. But on her daughter's birthday, Rome is shocked to see Samuel at the party, accompanied by Esme. As soon as they enter, a heated argument erupts between Rome and Samuel. She furiously confronts him for showing up uninvited, and their dispute escalates until she loses control and throws a glass onto the floor, shattering it. Esme immediately intervenes, asking if she's okay. Rome, trying to cover up the situation, lies and says she accidentally dropped the glass. But the next day, Rome is shocked when Esme visits her home and reveals that she knows about her affair with Samuel. Rome becomes tense, unable to respond, but Esme continues, demanding that she end her relationship with Samuel immediately. She warns Rome to protect her image and remain the role model that others aspire to be. Rome falls into despair and finds herself lost in confusion. She finally decides to confront Jacob with the truth and confess to him, no matter the consequences. She speaks to him honestly, admitting that she has been unhappy in their marriage for a long time, and this dissatisfaction made her weak enough to betray him with another man. However, she lies, claiming that it only happened once with a stranger she met by chance at a bar and never saw again. Jacob is furious, telling her that there is no justification for betrayal. He insists that she should have asked for a divorce rather than cheat on him. He then reminds her that she has ruined their daughters' lives because of her actions, as they will now have to live apart from her. Furthermore, he refuses to let her remain in his life and demands that she leave the house immediately and never return. Rome leaves and heads to their countryside home, the place where she used to meet Samuel. But to her surprise, Samuel is already there, as they had always met in that very spot. She tells him what happened between her and Jacob, and while they are talking, Jacob suddenly arrives. He is stunned to discover that Samuel is the man she had been seeing, and that their affair was not just a fleeting mistake, but something that lasted for a long time. Jacob loses control and attacks Samuel, but Rome intervenes and pulls them apart. Overcome with rage and heartbreak, Jacob collapses. Rome tries to approach him, worried about his well-being, but he pushes her away. Samuel steps in, offering Jacob some water and staying by his side until he calms down. Then he apologizes for everything and leaves the house. Days pass, and Rome remains alone in the house, unable to go to work, drowning in her sorrow and unable to forgive herself. One day, her daughter Isabel visits her and urges her to come back home. She tells Rome that Jacob is in a terrible state. He isn't eating, isn't speaking to anyone, and spends his nights at the theater, refusing to return home. Rome goes to the theater and, through her tears, begs for Jacob's forgiveness, telling him she can't live without him. After some hesitation, Jacob finally decides to forgive her, and they return to continue their life together. When Rome returns to work, an employee enters her office and informs her that Samuel has left the company and moved to Japan for a new job. From his words, Rome senses that he knows about her relationship with Samuel. However, she remains composed and tells him that if he thinks he can threaten her with this information, he is completely mistaken. She adds that she doesn't care whether he or anyone else knows about her past with Samuel, even if it reaches the company's board of directors. Then, she ends the conversation and orders him to leave her office, and so the film ends.